What is a nested if statement? Well, nested if statement is when you have an if, elif ladder or some derivation of that within another one. Okay, so you can see we have an if here with the colon, and then we have to indent, and it begins another if statement. Again, you've got to have the colon whenever you have a statement with a keyword, if, elif, or else. So if the customer is retail, then it goes through this little ladder to determine what the discount should be. And we're doing it in reverse order. We're trying to comport with these rules in these discount rules in this table. We're starting from the bottom. We're saying if the invoice total is less than 100, they get no discount. Then we use a compound. If it's in between 100 and 250, they get a 10% discount. If it's greater than that, on the other hand, we get a 20% discount. Okay, and this elif ladder will be operational, will run only if the customer type is R. And note, we're using the lower method, right? We're appending the lower method. So if they enter customer type of uppercase R or lowercase r, this will fire. This will be true. Okay, so you're going to need to use lower when we start getting into while statements, particularly when you want to add a feature to a program that gives the user the option to continue to enter in a different set of data, as we'll see a couple of examples coming up. Lower gives you some measure of data validation, really not enough, because if they enter something other than R or W, weird things will happen. Okay, so let's see. Okay, we have this on a script. Take a quick look. And I can't remember if I jazzed it up. I might have. Slide 18. Lots of scripts in this one. Okay, and then we let's see. So we want to do right. So enter customer type. So I'll enter an uppercase R. And the invoice total will say 450. And notice when it parrots back the lowercase r, not the uppercase, because of that, because we use that lower method. So uppercase R and lowercase r will always be seen, will always be interpreted as the lowercase r if you use the lower method. Okay, and we get this discount for a retail customer with an invoice total of 450. Otherwise, wholesale invoice total 340, they get a 40% discount. They get bigger discounts. Let's run this one more time and try to goof it up. Let's say customer type is uppercase X, and it did take that. So let's see what happens when we enter an amount. The error will follow. Okay, it can accept an uppercase X, but when we get, no, it did run. Okay, so it interpreted that. Let's see. So we said 3, 4. Okay, discount is 0, right? It didn't recognize it. So all of these failed, and all of these failed. And we have this else condition to catch the garbage like this. So there was no discount percent at all because it didn't know what an uppercase X was. And at least the program didn't blow up. That's good. But it would be an improvement if you would inform the user about the nature of their error and give them a chance to go through it again without restarting the program. That's the point that I would like to make about that. Okay, so here's an example. This is slide 19, and this does the same thing that we did in slide 18, but without nested statements. Okay, and we achieved that by having compound conditions. So it's just an alternative of the previous example. It gets the same results without nested statements using the compound conditions. And again, this is kind of messy. It's inherently more difficult to understand. Also, it duplicates the Boolean expression that checks the customer type in each clause, right? Redundancy is not good. You want your code to be maintainable. So if you added, if you change the designation of retail to something else like RETAILE, you'd have to adjust at least four of these statements. So maintenance is an important consideration with your code. You don't want to be having to change the same thing in multiple places. That's not very good programming. Okay, so it's both tedious and error prone. Okay, so here, it's miles per gallon. And I have this as slide 21, but I believe it's also the exact same as the MPG program. Slide 21. Oops. And we run it. Enter miles driven, 150. Enter gallons of gas used, 0, which is nonsensical. And it catches that, right? Gallons used must be greater than 0. Please try again. But the program does end. This program would be improved if it would just loop back up to the top of the program and say, you made a mistake, you want to try it over, rather than forcing you to execute the program again. So again, we caught the mistake here, and it will catch both 0 entered for miles or gallons used. Right, less than or equal to. So any negative number or 0, it won't do the calculations, and it will give you this message. Okay, so again, we're just kind of wading into the data validation stuff, which really is the time-consuming part of programming. You want it to do something, you want it to calculate something or print something, but then you've got to start thinking about things that can go wrong. So you could do it like this. This is a little more concise. Instead of having multiple if statements, you could test both whether miles driven is greater than 0 and gallons used are greater than 0. And if it is, you do the calculation. If it's not, you output this error message. Okay, but I guess a disadvantage, this is a little more concise, but a disadvantage is that you get the same error message, whether it's the problem is with the miles driven or the gallons used. Okay, so that's not very informative for the user. Okay, so here's the invoice program. Let's take a look at this. And I believe this is in your programs folder. And let's run it. Yeah, this is kind of a messy, I shouldn't call it messy. It's kind of a long program. We have if elifs nested within other if statements. Here's the outer if, where we have if this elif belongs to the outer if, this else belongs to the outer if, and then within that, we have at least two different nested second level, I guess I could call them, if elif ladders. Here's one, and here's another one. Okay. And again, it uses the discount if you don't enter an R or a W. It's using nested if statements to calculate the discount percent for an invoice. Let's run it. I believe it also uses the lower method somewhere. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so let's do this. So we run this. We enter an uppercase R, and the invoice total is 250. And it works just fine. Discount amount is 50%, and the new invoice total, by subtracting 50, the discount from the original invoice total, you get 200. Okay, so we can take a closer look, I suppose, at this code on the slides, right? So we have the shebang line, and then the program just displays some sort of banner welcome message, and then another blank line. That's what the second print does. And then the program solicits input for both customer type and invoice total. You know, if we look at it in the script itself, in the program itself. So this part, we're just looking at this part on that slide. And then notice the yellow highlighting on the comments helps to clarify what that block of code is doing. So these lines of code here just simply determine the applicable discounts for both retail and wholesale, or neither, if the customers of the customer using these nested if elif statements. And it uses compound conditions so that each discount bracket is obvious. Okay. This makes the code easier to modify if the brackets change, or if new brackets are added. You would only do it in one place rather than multiple places. Okay, and then finally, again, it's using round as soon as you're calculating discount amount. And if you look at the actual code, actually, this wouldn't run. You have to have all of this on one line. Let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, here's discount amount. You're assigning the rounded total of invoice times discount percent rounded to 2 decimal places. And then you're computing the new invoice total, which is just the original invoice minus the discount amount. And then it displays these results. Okay. So that's pretty much the story for the if elif selection structures.